So quickly, let us introduce ourselves. My name is Patrick. I'm based in Seattle, Washington, the co-founder CEO here at Clarify. And Andre, you want to do a quick intro on your end?
Yeah, absolutely, Patrick. Yeah, nice to meet everybody as well on the call. My name is Ondrej. I'm the co-founders and the CTO, and excited to talk to you about Clarify today.
So what we're building at Clarify, effectively, Andre and I worked together at a previous startup called Iteratively. We're solving kind of this scattered data problem with a customer data platform. That company was acquired in 2021. But what we learned from that experience is we were solving this symptom, not the root cause of the problem that these teams face when it comes to managing their revenue organization. You had data across a dozen plus different tools. You didn't really have a system of record, as much as I think some of the legacy incumbent CRMs like to say that they are the system of record. Inevitably, that data ended up flowing into the warehouse, and people built a bunch of automated workflow on top of that. And so, once and for all, we wanted to solve that at Clarify. About 2.5 years into this journey, we're building the autonomous CRM that can capture all of this data in one place, effectively a warehouse native solution. We manage and operate this warehouse of all your customer data for you. So instead of that data being scattered across a bunch of different places, you have context all in one place. We call this the data layer. I think a lot of folks now are calling this the context engine or the context layer for all of your customer data. And for us, that lives in Clarify. Legacy CRMs weren't really built for the agentic age, right? You have a lot of relational data that you're looking at, traditionally a snapshot of a record, whereas CDP is really meant to solve the entire activity tracking, their event-driven system. We built Clarify to be able to blend the two worlds together, right? We have all of the relational data for all of your customer information, people, companies, deals, events that you're hosting, you name it. It's a very flexible data model. But we also store and capture all the activity data associated with those records as well. This is super helpful for AI, right? So you can do things like forecasting, next best action modeling, and you want to be able to actually understand the historical context to be able to build agents. The other massive unlock in the context of kind of this post-AI realm is really unstructured data that we have access to. So we have access to a plethora of unstructured data, things like email bodies. We have access to things like call transcript data. This is where effectively the crown jewels of all the information that your organization has that was pretty much locked away for decades, right? You had people that were manually taking notes and updating records. In the context of Clarify, you don't have to do that anymore. We have an integrated call recorder. We integrate with a bunch of other call recorders as well. So all that information flows into our system. We process that information. We use AI to extract the information that's valuable from these entities and automate a lot of that work that traditionally would have required just human resources and capital. And again, we're building a CRM for how teams work today. We integrate with tools like Claude. We were the second CRM to be publicly listed in the Anthropic marketplace. And we want to make sure that's really easy to scale your work, regardless if you use our agentic harness or if you use another agentic harness as well. So again, one home for all your customer data. We make it easy to build kind of your go-to-market motion, whether or not it's an inbound motion, an outbound motion, and can manage and deploy agents inside of Clarify as well. Andre, anything that I'm missing here that you want to highlight?
There's a couple things I'm going to talk about them in the next couple slides, but yeah, this is a great intro, Patrick.
Great.
Yeah, so Patrick and I have been living and breathing this thing for about 2.5 years now. So let's talk a little bit about what an AI CRM actually means and how we think about it to Clarify. So before we get into the demo from Patrick, I just wanted to frame for a second how we think about AI in a CRM. We all know AI gets slapped on everything right now. Most of it is just a chatbot bolted onto the same old system. That's what we see in a lot of services out there. That's not what Patrick and I wanted to build here with the team. So we created a bit of a different model that we follow in our product development and engineering. So I wanted to spend a couple minutes talking about how we think about it. So the way we see it, AI only becomes useful in a go-to-market workflow when three things in particular are true, and they really build on top of each other like a stack. So what are they? So one, you need clean, unified data underneath everything. Patrick just talked about this. We have a tremendous amount of data that we process, structured, unstructured, time series data as well. That all powers a modern CRM, an intelligent CRM. Two, you need something that can actually understand the unstructured conversations that you're going to have with the CRM and the data that powers them. That's the calls that Patrick was referring to, the emails, the meetings, the transcripts. And three, only once you have those two, you can put agents on top that do the real work for you. And that's really the thing that ties it all together, something that shipped in Clarify just last month. We're very excited about it. And Patrick is going to show you what that looks like in a second. So if you miss any of these layers, the whole thing falls apart. Agents run on top of stale data. That just automates your mistakes faster. So these three bullets that I'm going to talk about, they aren't really just a feature list. They're the ingredients in order that make the whole thing work. That's the philosophy behind Clarify and why we are seeing a lot of interest and traction with the product that we've built. Okay, Patrick, yeah, let's jump to slide one. Let's talk about the data for a second, and that pulls in enrichment too. So it all starts here. This is where every CRM historically goes to die. The reason reps hate CRMs is that they're a data entry tax. We haven't spoken, I think, to a single person that likes to update CRMs. They like to get the data and the insights out of them when they can, but they don't like to update them. So we're here to make that problem go away. You're the one in a typical CRM that keeps the CRM alive, and the moment you stop, it's stale. Clarify uniquely stays in sync with your email, with your calendar, with your meetings out of the box so that every lead, every meeting, every deal automatically lives in one place and is automatically updated. Get the full, true customer 360 view of your customers. It also doesn't stop at what you give it through these unstructured data points. When a field is missing, we don't know what someone's title is or where a company is based or how large it is. Our enrichment fills the gap automatically. There's a waterfall system that runs automatically behind the scenes. Things like company details, contact info, the context you'd normally go hunt down across multiple tabs, it all gets filled into the CRM automatically. So yeah, good data in, good data out is the kind of the mental model that we follow. Okay, jump to the next one, Patrick. So what's next in the stack? It's Rep. It's our conversational intelligence agent and the platform underneath it. So this is the block that turns that messy, unstructured interaction data into something you can actually reason with and chat with. Most of what matters ultimately in a deal never makes it into a CRM field. It's set on a call, it's buried in an email thread. That's where Rep, our agent, sits on top of it all and does it for you. It captures the calls, reads the email threads, pulls out who the decision makers are, what the blockers are, what's must have versus nice to have in a deal, extracts the entities, writes the summaries, updates fields automatically. That's the power of Rep and the kind of autonomous AI capability that's baked into the Clarify platform that makes it possible for you to actually have an up-to-date CRM without having to do it all by yourself. You don't have to go digging through any of it either. You just ask. We're all used to this now in Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini, whatever system you might be using. You just talk to the Clarify. Rep always has the full context of every lead, every company, every deal. So you can talk to it like you talk to a teammate who sat in on every call. And you can ask it questions like, what are the risks on this deal? Who else are they evaluating? What are the next steps? Rep knows it all and can serve it up to you on a silver platter. So that's the intelligence layer. And then lastly, and perhaps most excitingly, are the workflows, the automation, the agents. This is the payoff. It only works because of the two layers underneath it. On the last slide, you're chatting with Rep, asking you questions. Here is where you stop having to ask Rep anything at all. Instead of pulling answers out of Rep one at a time, you tell Rep what you want done, what insights to surface, what actions to complete, what to watch for. And Rep then does it automatically. When certain events get triggered on schedule, you can hook up these automations, these agents to any triggers that make sense in your workflow and begin automating your go-to-market work. So that's the shift from a chatbot to an agent. That's what we should have just shipped. You set it up once. Rep then works 24/7 as your always-on assistant, detecting new opportunities in your inbox, drafting your follow-ups, keeping your pipeline clean, things like this. So that's what happens. One other note I would make here, just to wrap it up, is a lot of times Clarify and the agents that run on it, they'll propose things for you. They'll suggest things to you that we think are relevant and you should know about, and then you approve. It does not, unless you tell it to, quietly rewrite your records behind your back. The goal isn't to take the wheel away from you, but to empower you to still have the control, but do as little of the work, manual work as possible. That's
Great.
it
Thanks.
from me. Yeah.
Thanks, Ondrej. Let's make this real. Let's show everybody a
Yeah.
demo of Clarify. So let me jump in here and I kind of will show you how we use Clarify on Clarify. So I think it's most helpful when applying the lens of we're using this product ourselves, right? We scale our own go-to-market motion on top of Clarify. So we'll talk a little bit about how we use it, the agents that we set up, the connectors that we have in place, and then I'll jump over into kind of a separate little workspace so we can start creating some agents and you can kind of see what that experience looks like as well. But first and foremost, this is our desktop app. The nice thing about the desktop app is it lives where you live. You don't have to worry about jumping through a bunch of different tabs in a browser. You also have it fully integrated into things like your calendar, so you can see everything that's coming up. And beyond that, we do things like help follow up with meeting prep. So every one of your meetings has prep associated with it, so you can quickly see what AI is recommending, right? So if I have a call with somebody like Jeff Sears here, you can see that this is basically prepping me for this call ahead of time so that I don't have to worry about having to go hunt through emails, past contact history, the fact that I met Jeff in Seattle at a Mariners game, which is a great insight here. It's helpful for me to have that context. Additionally, if I have a meeting, you can see that my summary of that meeting is fully baked here. I get things like tasks automatically created from me. I get this nice little one-click send follow-up email that basically uses AI to help me draft my follow-up email here to account. And again, I see a bunch of people asking for this particular use case. I think this is the number one leading indicator of good sales teams and hygiene is, do you send a follow-up email and how quickly do you send it? So we try to automate as much of that work as possible. So for me, as somebody who's still doing a lot of founder-led sales on the team, I can easily come in here, see my day. At the end of my day, I can kind of go action the things that I need. And I can go look at my open deals and any of the tasks that I have to do as well. So this is just a much, much nicer experience for me as a rep. Additionally, you can see that we have this inbuilt agent. You can think of this as just ChatGPT or Claude directly built into Clarify. Has a bunch of context, right? It has access to a bunch of the previous history of information that I was querying, has access to things like skills that we've created both personally as well as a team, and things like connectors here as well. So connections into other tools. And connectors are kind of the holy grail for CRM, right? It's how do we get data in and then how do we get data out of the system? So this is something that for us is super powerful, right? So you can see that by default, Clarify and Rep obviously have access to all the different tools that Clarify has access to. And you can think of tools as one of the underlying primitives in kind of this post-AI world, right? So we expose a bunch of tools to our own agent harness that runs inside of Clarify, but these tools are also available inside of things like Claude, right? So if you, I'm sure a lot of people on this call use tools like Claude, you can easily go in and connect Clarify here as well, and you have the access to the same tools, both read and write, that you have in Clarify. You don't necessarily have to log into our product to get all the value. If you are using something like Claude, we have a lot of folks that use us as more of this headless CRM, where they're pushing and operating their go-to-market motion inside of Clarify, but a lot of how they interact with it is in other tools like Claude. And yes, thanks on the shout out there. Yeah, we've spent a lot of time making sure that our MCP is best in class here. Okay, and so you can see that we have a variety of different connectors, and the things that are super important for us is things like our Google integration. We support both Google as well as Microsoft, but the Google integration in particular gives us access to things like all of the emails, all of the calendar events, allows me to send emails from my account, allows me to send calendar events as well. So I have a lot of agents, and we'll talk about this as well. So a lot of my emails are pre-drafted for me. I don't have to actually go write my emails anymore. A lot of my follow-up is same thing, pre-drafted, and then I use an agent inside of my inbox to do things like orchestrate and help with things like scheduling as well. So I'll show you what some of these agents do in a bit. Additionally, we use Slack quite a bit internally. Not only can you do things like push information to Slack when a deal gets closed, but you can also engage with Rep, which is our agent inside of Slack. So I use this quite a bit. So let me go show you what this looks like. Again, this is kind of just another surface area where you can go in and ask questions. So inside of our Slack experience, you can see one, the agent is asking me for a bunch of other information and approval here. You can see I have a history of chats. You can see agents are asking me for work here, right? So in the context of this agent, I can just go in and approve it. So again, if you live and operate inside of Slack, you don't have to necessarily go log into the CRM every day. We're trying to push you the information where it's contextually relevant. And again, if you have a channel, like if you go to let's go to product real quick. I can always mention something like Clarify here, and this will pull in Clarify into the chat. So I can say Clarify, what does my day look like? Question mark. And here you can see it will go spin off a bunch of work and go get me an answer here. So yeah, we want to operate where you are. So let us know if there's any other integrations or connectors that folks need for their workflow. We're spinning up a bunch of connectors. We have a team working on integrations now as a team. So very excited about this. And you can see, yeah, we use internally for our own product building side, we use tools like Notion and Linear. So we have a bunch of agents that automatically extract things like product feedback, push that information to Linear, and we can create things like customer success plans in Notion, but soon to be Clarify as well. So these are the tools that we use to operate our own go-to-market motion. Okay, yeah, Matt, you can go set up the Lumlist integration works. Yeah, it's great. You can see all the tools that are available here. You can pull data in from Lumlist as well as orchestrate a lot of the audience management side. Okay, so we talked quickly about connectors. Let's talk a little bit more about the data model here. So data is everything from our perspective. Again, to echo Ondrej's point, it's a garbage in, garbage out problem. We want to make sure you have very good data hygiene. Again, AI training itself on top of your data here, managing that data, making sure you have the right objects, the right activities, the right integrations to be able to automate a lot of the data input into the system are super important. Yeah, I see some good questions there. But this is what our data model looks like, right? So we have things like companies, people, and deals, and meetings, and tasks. These are what you get out of the box, right? You'll see that if you go sign up for Clarify today, you're going to have a bunch of these objects that are pre-created. We have a bunch of custom objects that we've created. So we do a lot of field events, right? So we track events. We have a post-sales process now. So we have a customer success team and support team, right? So we track customer health snapshots here. We track our LinkedIn connections, partners, product feedback, projects, renewal opportunities, Slack channels that we have with customers. And yes, also product usage in the CRM. Our last company got acquired by Amplitude, so we can natively ingest product usage data. And then we use that a lot for things like updating records or triggering workflows, which I'll touch on as well. So if I look at a particular object, let me go look at the events object here, right? So this event object has a name, has a description. This description is actually super helpful for AI to understand the canonical data model here. So AI works and operates on top of the schema. It has a bunch of fields that were created, right? And so some of these fields are relationship fields here, like the people who I met at the event. So this is helpful for us to make this a bit more real. But yeah, then I can track all my events, attendance, and follow up there as well. And this makes it really easy because by default, most of the data is just automatically flowing into our system, right? So you can see these are the companies that are flowing into our system, people that we're either engaging with on LinkedIn, email, signing up for our product, right? So it's easy for us to go look at things like product signups in Clarify. And the way that this works is primarily because we have kind of workflows built into Clarify, right? So we have a bunch of workflows that we have that basically go do things like when a new customer is signed up, what do we do? Here you can see that we're doing waterfall. We create a bunch of deals as well. And a lot of this is based off of things like usage data, right? So great example here is updating last product interaction date based off an event that gets triggered and sent in, and then we'll trigger a workflow automation for this. So we do have workflows. Again, this is best of breed, I'd say, when it comes to things like building deterministic software. But again, we're not just deterministic here. You can also go in and create agents. And I'll show you what that looks like in a sec. But first, let me touch on skills. So skills are one of the underlying, what I consider one of the underlying primitives now in this kind of post-AI world. Skills help you codify knowledge within your organization. So you have a bunch of skills here, right? We think about things like email, voice, and tone, right? I bet everyone here has gone to ChatGPT or Claude and had to try to write an email on your behalf. And typically it looks like slop. Right. The reason why is because ChatGPT doesn't have the context available to know how to write your email. It doesn't have a voice and tone pack. So what we do when a customer signs up for Clarify is we go try to generate a bunch of skills that are actually contextual to their business. We try to understand your go-to-market motion. We try to understand your business, how you talk, how you speak, your ICPs, your USPs. These basically create what we call this context engine. And today that context engine is codified into things like settings for customers. So if you go here, you'll see things like under intelligence, you'll see this whole company description. So this is helpful for generating just, yeah, better AI inside of our system. So we'll generate this and keep it up to date. But additionally, things like skills help you kind of by this. Here, exactly how we position, how I write emails, it's direct and authoritative, conversational, accessible. This is updates based off my emails as well. So when I go create an email or an agent creates an email on my behalf, it sounds a lot more like Clarify. I teach it how to write calendar invites for me. It knows what Zooms to use. It knows my time zone. It knows how to go create partner offer pages. It knows how to triage my inbox, like what I like, what I don't like. So again, these are, again, primitives inside of our system, but think of these as the building blocks for agents. Okay, so let's jump into agents. I think this is if we're talking about the meat and potatoes, this is where I think we're very excited about what we've been building at Clarify. agents allow you to go orchestrate a lot of the work now, right? So we shipped workflows at the beginning of last year, again, fully deterministic. You can create a workflow with kind of an AI node. We don't consider that an agent, by the way. We want agents to be a little bit higher order here. So an agent for us is just how do we codify our process, right? So we have things like BDR weekly prospectors. We have intercom to support ticket syncs, right? So we're syncing data from other third-party systems with agents as well. I've done a lot on the marketing side. So you'll see things like partners. I have three different partner agents that help us spin up our partner motion. And these are just the agents that I've created, right? We have agents that our team has created as well. So if I switch over to all agents, you can see agents that folks on our team like Travis are running, right? Or Stephanie on our team are running as well. But agents basically allow you to go do things, right? So let's go look at one of my favorite agents here. So the inbox reply drafter. So again, I get a ton of emails. I'm CEO of a startup. A lot of folks are emailing me. Effectively, what I'm trying to do here is automate one of the most time-sensitive tasks that I have today, which is just following up with people if they email me. So every email that I get in my system typically gets pre-drafted, right? So when a record is created, it goes in, filters out the noise, and drafts contextual replies, right? So it checks all the context of my calendar, my CRM. So here it's classifying the email. It knows what type of email it is. It knows when to draft a reply. It knows when not to draft a reply. It knows how to gather additional context from our CRM. Yeah, it's funny. I see Tina. I'll jump into that agent in a sec. Knows how to handle intro emails, specifically if somebody's asking me for an intro, and knows how to handle scheduling emails as well. And it can draft obviously the reply using my skill here, my email voice and tone skill. It has important notes. Never send emails automatically. When in doubt about classifications, skip on the side of not drafting. One draft per email. Agents runs from Patrick's email permissions. And again, it has access to a bunch of tools, right? It knows how to create an email draft. And these are the same tools that you'd expect other systems to have, right? You can add additional connectors and additional tools here for these agents. But again, like I'm not actually manually going and creating these agents. Effectively, I'm using rep to create the agents, or I'm going and I'm looking at things like our library of public agents. So we have a marketplace of agents now. We have some of the folks here on this call have actually created agents with us, but you can go in and use some of our out-of-the-box agents like inbox reply drafter, end-of-day wrap-up, post-meeting follow-up, or again, just use natural language to go create your own agent. But yeah, I use agents there's a good example here, I think, from Tina. So you can see weekly LinkedIn content from sales calls. This is one of my favorite agents. Actually looks at all of my previous LinkedIn messages. It knows what's resonated in market, scores and classifies all of my LinkedIn posts. And then it reads all of our sales calls to actually extract different pain points that have happened within customer calls on a weekly basis, and then goes and drafts all these. So it makes it really easy to go execute. So if I go look on the 29th, you can see it looked at a bunch of calls here and pulled a bunch of information, created a bunch of posts here as well. So yeah, this type of work is really helpful, not just on the sales side, but also scaling out kind of our marketing motion. Sweet. Let me just scan real quick to see if there is any questions. Great. Fucking great question here. So where is Clarify Agents a complement or substitute for tools like Claude? We work with a bunch of different organizations. We work with people that are as AI pilled as you can imagine on the forefront of AI. We also work with organizations that might not necessarily be digital native businesses, right? Where for them, Clarify is their agent. This is the AI within their organization. For us, we're building for both, right? We're building for organizations that want to integrate us with other agentic harnesses like Claude, or organizations where we're managing most of that work, right? Everything you can see, I can do pretty much anything inside of Rep, right? So let's go jump into another tool and I'll kind of just walk you through some of the things you can do. So this is an example of just a test workspace, right? So I can do things like, okay, based on my go-to-market motion, I want you to suggest a few agents for us to create. Right. So like I can come in here and just use natural language in the context of this trial workspace, and it's going to go do the things that I need right now. You can go do this in Claude, and Claude can actually go make the right MCP tool calls into Clarify as well. But the thing that we have access to is really that organizational context, right? Context matters quite a bit. And so when we create your workspace, we do a bunch to generate this context engine underneath the hood. So that way, when we do things like this, when you ask questions inside of Clarify, you get better results. Right. I think this is effectively the future battle of AI companies is who has the best contacts. And so this is where we're betting that we can do a really good job for the go-to-market teams in particular, is that we just have better context of what great looks like for sales and marketing. But yeah, this is an example. So let's create an agent real quick. Create 4. Nice thing with AI is it doesn't actually have to spell correctly. So let's go in and create an agent here. So you can see that's actually calling all the tools here. It's going to go look at the previous context for the weekly pipeline digest and go in and create me this agent. It's checking to see if there's any existing agents that it might conflict with, right? It's trying to dedupe essentially to make sure that we're not creating conflicting agents or creating race conditions here. And yes, to last answer your question, yes, you can actually create an agent to have it automatically update fields in your CRM. And I'll talk about some of the kind of out of the box agents that we have running as well. When does iOS have the hot questions here? Yeah, it's definitely something top of mind. We were talking about this yesterday as a team. It's probably one of the number one requests that we have. And we'll talk a little bit about what's on the roadmap and what's coming up. So always open to feedback on folks if they see other things that we should be working on. Cool. Let's see if it actually went and created this agent here real quick. I'm running this one on localhost, so I'll just actually go do the same thing. Create me an agent that looks at all of my team's sales calls and posts a weekly update. Okay, so I'm gonna actually create this one in our production account. Hopefully our RevOps team doesn't get mad at me, aka myself. So here you can see when I actually ask this, it's gonna go do some elicitation. It's gonna ask me some questions, right? So post to a specific Slack channel. Yep, I want this done on Friday afternoon so I can follow up with the team. Yeah, let's do sales calls and demo discovery, right? And then, okay, what do I want to include? Summary of each call, deal stage, common objections, action items, next steps, win loss signals. Okay, yep, those are all great recommendations from Wrap. So here it's going to actually go in and create the agent. Let me check your existing agents. My guess is we'll probably already have one that does this, but that should be fine. We'll just run a test here. Yeah, so we have 152 agents in our system. Yeah, there's a lot of things that we're using AI for. So here you can see it's actually fetching the meeting schema. Okay, I found your meeting schema. Sales calls are classified using the type field, so it knows about our data. Which Slack channel? Let's just do GTM. Build it now. My team shared meetings with me already. Yep, that's fine. Let's do this. So you can see that's respecting things like privacy inside the CRM, so it knows who shared meetings with me and who's not shared their meetings with me. And then, yeah, one thing I will touch on because we are integrated into the calls, right? It's really easy to come in, look at the previous calls, right? So we have access to all the unstructured data, the summary data. There's a linked deal here as an example, but this all is context that agents look at as well. So yeah, having access to the transcript data, things like talk time, this is, yeah, just helpful context. Yeah, so I already have an agent here where it's trying to dedupe that a bit. Cool. So it found the Slack tool setup. Now it's creating the agent. Cool. So this is the agent that I just created. So weekly sales call digest every Friday afternoon reviews the week's sales calls, discovery, closing, synthesize key themes, deals, objections, and action items. Right? It has a trigger, runs Friday at 4 p.m. Again, I can go change this trigger, or I can change the time zone, the time, all these things. Again, like I like to use the analogy where we're not cavemen anymore. We're not button clickers. We typically work with AI. So I try to avoid clicking as many buttons as I can. So here you can see I primarily use Wrap where it's prompting me for things. I'll have to wait for the Friday run, but you can see it's finding this week's sales calls. It understands our schema, so we know what labels to look for here. It loads the meeting details, synthesizes it all, and then here it created a format for Slack, right? So it knows, okay, calls this week, number of calls, call summaries, deal stage movements, common themes and objections, action items and next steps. And again, it has access to all the tools, right? This can run. If I go run the agent, you'll see here that it's going to actually go pull a bunch of that activity and get more information here. So while this thing runs in the background, let's go talk a little bit about some of the intelligent stuff that we shipped just out of the box. So we have things like deal suggestions. This just works out of the box. We have things like deal summaries. So we summarize all the deals. You can do field updates, meeting briefings, You can publish to the calendar. This is something that I actually do quite a bit, which is I actually publish the brief to the calendar. So when I'm meeting with somebody, they're actually prepped as well. So it's helpful on the sales side to have your customers prepped on what the agenda is. And then, yeah, summarize things, create tasks, you name it. A lot of this feeds into kind of our billing model as well. So you can see like all of the agentic work that happens underneath the hood, things that, the different agent runs that we have, the different fields that get automatically filled out with autofill, workflows that run. This is the stuff that consumes credits in our system, but effectively this is how we build as well. Andre, what am I missing? What else should I be demoing?
The recorder, I think that's an interesting thing to at least mention on the desktop and in the web. Yeah, all the recorded meetings and how that works. I guess you showed a little bit
Yeah.
of the speaker control. It's really easy to get a meeting recorded locally as well from the desktop app.
Cool. Let me jump into one of the things that people typically like, which is prospecting. So as Andre mentioned earlier in the call, we ship Lead Finder and Campaigns. So I've already demoed workflows and agents. So the other two tools that typically customers like is the Lead Finder and Campaigns. So again, these are tools that are available for anybody that uses Clarify. A lot of customers that we work with, the number one pain point that they have is pipeline, right? They're all looking to generate pipelines. So how do we help them do that? In the context of Clarify, we have an integrated database of over 200 million plus records, right? So these are people and companies. You can see that we use AI already to help kind of surface relevant suggestions for you. But again, this is the context that we have about your business. So for us at Clarify, a lot of this is find sales leaders evaluating new CRM platforms, right? If I ask that question, this is going to kick off a search inside a rep, and this is going to return kind of a sample of data that you can then use to go prospect or outbound. So let's go run this real quick. So you can see that rep generated a query for me here. Now it's finding sales leaders, leadership leads. And you can see that in 10 seconds, it's found 187 sales leaders matching my particular criteria here. My version of this has the email shown. Your version probably won't have the email shown here. But from here, I can start reaching out to people, right? So if I look at somebody like, let me find somebody that I like here. Let's go look at Anthony. So if I go look at Anthony here, I get things like their emails, I get their personal email, LinkedIn, company, a bunch of information about them, prior job history. If I go click onto their company profile, I can look at other people at this company, right? So this allows me to multi-thread a deal as well. So again, this makes it really easy. If I want to go send an email to these people, I can easily do that. The nice part is that we're typically not working in isolation, right? So if I have go back to in particular, go back to that search that was just performed, I can start importing these folks, right? So it makes it really easy for me to do that. I click back and say, now build me a campaign specifically to reach out to these people about an event that we're hosting online next week. So again, I can just go to Rep. Rep kind of orchestrates a lot of these things. And still today, humans are kind of the ones that are getting Rep to do the work. I'd say in the next couple of months, that's going to change pretty drastically and Clarify, where the system's just going to be running fully autonomous for folks. But right now, you're still prompting it in the context of either finding you leads or doing these things. Let's just do a webinar next month. Modern CRMs and sales stacks. Let's do 3 emails. Again, this actually has a ton of context on things that we're already doing because it's connected into tools like Notion as well. Make it best. And again, from here, it can actually go create the event record as well as the campaign. So when people start signing up, they automatically show up on the event itself. So here, just read the campaign docs. It's activating the email, voice, and tone skill. Give it a sec. There we go. Great to hear, Ryan. Okay, so it's finding the right tool for this, which is the campaigns tool.
Live demos, Patrick, but you might have hit a glitch here. Try telling rep one more time.
Should be working. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just takes a sec. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Cool.
it's enumerating through our tool search. Yeah. We don't have a search tool for tool search. Okay, cool. So you see that it created the campaign. Campaign draft is ready. Hi there, we just stepped in a new sales leadership role. I'm hosting a live webinar next Wednesday. You just stepped in a new, so it has context of the people that I found. It's free, and here's a live link. It's actually can create the Sanity page now as well, which is pretty cool. So Clarify is also connected to Sanity, which is our CMS, so I can actually have it go automatically build the landing pages for me. Has both step one, step two, step three, right? So it did a good job of, hey, webinar next week, what we'll cover, and last call webinar tomorrow, 11 a.m. So I'm fairly happy with this, actually. I think there's some things it could have done better here. I'll generate these as instead of just posting the link, it could have done this as a link. But all in all, this is pretty good. And if I wanted to send this out, basically, I would just say, go create me a list of those people previously, import them, and enroll in
A
campaign.
team was on the call with the customer. We just found a bug. So we're in a deal object list here for them. What they typically do is they'll include a
There we go. Yeah, so this is all you really need to do to go spin up a campaign in Clarify. One of the things that's coming up quite vocally from our customer base today is really the omni-channel campaign. So support for both things like email as well as LinkedIn. Yeah, and then other tools like SMS as well. So I can say, hey, import sample of 10 first, right? And so again, like this is an easy way for you to go validate the experience, send it out, make sure everything's right before importing a bunch of folks. And we'll see what this looks like. Okay, cool. Import. You can see it's importing the people from that database. Yeah, you can see that it's 9 net new leads. So there's already one lead that was actually on our system. You can see it's queued, import kicked off and created a list. Now let me attach it to the campaign. So it knows how to go do this. Cool. And now if I click on somebody like Clint as an example, you can see it's previewing. You can see Clint's information here. So yeah, Marcus, same thing. There's also ways to do hyper personalization here. So if you want every email to be include things like internet research on the customer, you can do that as well. Requires a little bit more hoops to jump through, but also support some of those capabilities as well. I think that is pretty much it on the demo side. So let me jump back in and we'll talk a little bit more about what's coming up and things like pricing. So one of the big questions that we get from our customers is how do we charge? And what we're doing is we think the CRM is a commodity, right? So we're not charging you for data, we're not charging you for call recording. In this post-agentic world, software cost is going to zero. What we basically charge you for is inference. We charge you for all the AI capabilities that we provide in the product. So we're a free CRM in the sense that you can have as many users on it as possible. We don't charge you per seat. We charge you for the workload that we run. Right, so for a lot of our customers that use Clarify and Claude, typically AI usage looks fairly low. For those that actually deploy agents inside of Clarify, the usage looks higher, right? But effectively for us, we want to make a system that is a little bit more usage and outcome based, not one that's seat based where we don't think that's the where the world is headed. And we think that this is the most fair for our customers as well. I've worked at two different organizations, both Atlassian, where we're 4,000 people and only less than half the company had access to Salesforce at the time. And I worked at Amplitude, which is the exact same thing. We're 800 people post us getting acquired, and less than half the company had access to Salesforce. And if you think about customer data being the crown jewels, the oil of your organization, we believe that everyone should have access to this, including things like call recording, you name it. And so what's coming up next? One, we're very excited to announce Clarify Signals in the next week or so, but we're bringing a lot more intent data into the CRM. So today we have access to a lot of first-party data, right? You can send us your usage data. It's a fully event-driven system. You can connect us to things like emails and call data. But we want to bring a lot more signals into the CRM so you can do better campaigns, better orchestrate your go-to-market motions, basically make sure that you're not just looking in the rearview mirror, but you can look ahead and make more contextual decisions as well. As I alluded to earlier, things like multi-channel prospecting is currently something that's very top of mind for us in the works, right? So we have a lot of customers that want to do things like email automation, but as we all know, multi-channel, multi-touch is always the best. So we're integrating other additional capabilities into our campaigns feature so that you can touch customers across multiple different channels, including things like LinkedIn. And then things like agentic reporting. I think there was one question already inside of the chat around reporting and dashboarding. So this is currently in flight right now. You can ask Rep a lot of questions. Rep has the ability to go in and create charts for you and graphs and can do a really good job there, just like Claude can. But we have a lot of our customers doing the reporting today, either via Rep or in tools like Claude, but expect some updates there in actually the next few weeks. This is definitely top of mind and a lot of the needs that are, I'd say, like Series B and later customers are asking for. So very much here, folks on this call for the need here. And that's what's down the pipe. I know we have some questions or time for questions, so I very much want to do this as well. But let us know if there's any questions top of mind, or maybe Chris, you want to organize the questions and we could just jump on in.
Yeah, there's a bunch of questions in Q&A. There's multiples from a few people, so I'll try to give more individuals a chance. So if I don't get to your specific questions, we'll try to follow up afterwards. First kind of category of questions, Pat and Ondrej, come from Lydia. She asks about availability of analytics, which you've talked to, but her second question I think is a good one, which is you're talking a lot about your day as if you're working as a sales rep. How should like a manager level sales professional think about when you're looking at this system across reps?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the way that I think of myself as more of that manager role, right? Even here at Clarify, right? We have multiple different reps on the team. We have a post-sales team now as well. So a lot of what I'm doing is I'm analyzing the work that they're doing or that their agents are doing, right? So like I use Rep to give me answers about, okay, give me all the calls that Travis had this week. How do you do? What feedback should I give him? Right? And it's really good at that sales coaching aspect. And then Travis, who's also managing people on the team, is giving very similar feedback to other folks that he's managing, right? So Rep has all the context. You just have to understand what questions to ask. And like I know both myself and Travis have built agents to get us that purview where Clarify is pushing us the information that we need so that we're not prompting it every week. Effectively, I get an email or I get a Slack notification every week on who to follow up with, what deals are slipping, what deals got pulled into the pipeline. So yeah, it just makes my job easier. It's not a dashboard that I'm looking at. It's actually pushing it into Slack for me. It's pushing it into the email where it's actually a little bit more actionable.
Cool. A couple of people asked this differently, but more or less the question is for Lead Finder, what's the data source for leads and contact info, and are the emails verified deliverable?
Before we send any campaigns, we actually verify the emails as well so that you're not ruining your domain reputation. We basically have a TAM database, a bunch of records. There's 4 or 5 different data providers that we work with to coalesce what we consider a better data set than if you went with any individual provider. You can kind of think of this as just an out-of-the-box waterfall enrichment. That's what we use. We update that on a fairly regular basis as well, so the data is not stale. And then when you enroll somebody in a campaign, effectively, before that person gets emailed, we check and validate that email is correct as well. And if it's not, then we don't send the email. So we built some protections in place. I think there's other stuff that we can do to make it even better. But yeah, we try to protect your domain reputation. So you're not sending to a bunch of emails to bounce emails. And then 2, we keep the data set effectively up to date fairly regularly so that when you're searching, you're not getting stale data.
Awesome. Anthony asks, does Clarify support LinkedIn as a native data source, or do you recommend third-party connectors for enriching contacts, capturing interactions, and automating outreach? And if so, which integrations work best?
I mean, it's a great question. This is definitely an area that we're dipping our toe into as well. There's definitely some gotchas to be aware of when using third parties here, right? A lot of the stuff is buyer beware, I'd say. Just make sure that you're doing things that aren't going to get your account banned. We've had customers use tools like Lemlist, Dripify, you name it, to really focus on kind of LinkedIn automation side of the house and would recommend those tools. I think they're best in class for the LinkedIn side. But yeah, just make sure that you're doing things that aren't going to get your account banned. Make sure you're staying in throttling your number of connection requests if you're going to do automation on LinkedIn. But again, it's just buyer beware. It is a interesting landscape that we live in.
Yeah, and Pat, one thing I'd probably add to that is we do also have an integration with Condo, which is basically like an inbox for LinkedIn DMs, which gets some of your LinkedIn DM information into Clarify.
Yeah, Condo is great if you want to do a lot of the manual human work of managing LinkedIn. If you want to use agents or other tools to scale kind of LinkedIn as a channel, then yeah, just be careful.
Cool. Pen asks, could you walk through how you're using a custom object to track LinkedIn connections? I'm curious how it fits into your GTM workflow. I think that came up during the demo, Pat.
Yeah, that's great. So I have an agent that goes and exports all my LinkedIn contacts and uploads it. So that helps us create a bit of a network graph of who within our team am I connected with. So it's definitely something you can set up. It's very manual today. Again, we actually want to make sure that LinkedIn is kind of more of a first party integration. What I've done is basically duct tape and glue. So you can do it, but expect some updates on us soon. We're making it where you can get all of your LinkedIn data more directly in the CRM. You can understand things like relationship history. You can understand connection strength. These are things that we want to have as first party entities inside the CRM.
Cool. Yeah, to continue the LinkedIn and integration theme, Anoop asks, one, any plans for LinkedIn messaging integration for outreach? And two, any plans for adding Otter connector?
Yeah, Otter, there's a thunderstorm here in Seattle, which is interesting on a demo. But yeah, you can definitely get the Otter data back into Clarify. So if you're using Otter as your call recorder, you can definitely go use our API or use an inbound webhook to go create the information that's available. If you reach out to our support team at support@clarify.ai, I'm sure we have some getting started guides to do that. But yeah, we have our own call recorder. If you use a tool like Fathom, Otter, Fireflies, you name it, yeah, we definitely want you to get that data in because it's effectively what powers the workflow and the agents inside of Clarify. And to the other question related to LinkedIn automation, yeah, it's definitely something that we're exploring. As you can see, multi-channel prospecting and LinkedIn has come up in many of the questions here on this call. So we understand kind of the need for our customer base there. And we are evaluating different vendors and solutions, whether or not we're going to partner with people or whether or not we're going to actually build this in-house.
Awesome. Rahul in the chat asks, do you have any customers who are investors, VC firms, PE, et cetera?
We have a lot. Yeah, we definitely have a lot of VC funds using us now. I don't think any VC fund loves their CRM, just like most founders don't love their CRM. So it wasn't actually something that we thought was we definitely weren't super proactive about that, but we work with a bunch of different VC funds that have multiple billions of assets under management now to power their CRM.
Awesome. Pat asks, how do we validate if the data is accurate when AI extracts those unstructured data from our emails/attachment/call transcription? Is there any benchmark or numbers to measure against?
Yeah, we eval a lot of the work on our end as well. So we spent a lot of time trying to build effectively our agentic harness to make sure that we're not hallucinating. And I think this is where we get a ton of kudos from our customers who evaluated a bunch of the other vendors in the market. The AI and a lot of the other vendors is a hit or miss where we spent a lot of time trying to build the guardrails so that if you create an AI field, we're able to eval it over time. Same if you create an agent, we don't cause a negative experience for you or for your customers. So yeah, we've just spent a lot of time just building the harness to build those protections in place.
Nice. Robert in the chat on the topic of multi-channel campaigns asks about if dialers are on the map.
Yeah, and this comes up a bunch, right? AirCall, Nooks, you name it. Or we have integrated dialers with Clarify with customers. Typically, it's us integrating at the API layer so that you can log the activity data or get it as the unstructured data, the transcript data logged as well. I think there's still more that we can do here. So if you use AirCall, we have set up AirCall successfully with multiple different customers now. So just ping our support team. We'll see if we can get you the support you need to get that done.
Cool. Tina asks, what kind of data do we get from the Zoom integration, which was one of the ones listed on the integrations page during the demo, Pat?
Yeah, the Zoom integration on the integrations page today just makes it easy so that you authenticate your Zoom account. So that way, if you have your Zoom meeting, our bot doesn't get stuck in the waiting room. Basically allows our bot to bypass the waiting room restrictions. Again, it works great. We're not extracting or pulling in via the Zoom integration previous call transcripts that you have, but that's something that a lot of our customers are asking for as well. But the Zoom integration just allows us to have an authenticated session so that we can join the meeting without you having to let us in.
Cool. Rahul followed up with another question. Is the data able to sit on top of Salesforce or push to Salesforce?
Great question. This is something that we're actively working on as well at the moment. If you're interested in kind of bidirectional Salesforce or bidirectional HubSpot integration, definitely ping us. We're in an early access program at the moment. So looking for people that are interested in that kind of deployment model. Again, we don't charge for the CRM. We think that the CRM is a bit of a commodity at this point. We charge for the agents on top, and we think we built a great agent framework for go-to-market teams. So there's no reason for us not to want to integrate with Salesforce or HubSpot long-term here.
Cool. Tony, back in the Q&A, has a question. Can AI automatically update records after a meeting based on the conversation while letting us review and approve the changes before they're committed? I guess field updates, deal summaries, et cetera.
Yeah, for sure. Ondrej was alluding to this earlier. So you can put the AI into two different modalities, right? You can have it ask you for permission, or you can have it just go do the thing, right? So it depends on what it's doing. But yeah, you can 100% say, hey, every time I have a meeting, go look to see if there's a deal, look to see if there's any fields that need to be updated. And then ask me for permission on the updates to write to the record, right? So we have a lot of people that operate in that modality, and we have other people who just trust the AI now. We're like, hey, just update the record, and then you'll get a notification when the record is updated.
Awesome. I think we've covered most of the questions. I'm looking in the Q&A. There's some repeats about B2B data source and firmographics data. I don't know if we want to dive into that more specifically about Lead Finder, or if we feel like we've already covered that.
I feel like we covered most of it, yeah.
Okay, cool. Any last questions in the chat? Feel free to drop them in. We'll hang out for another 20, 30 seconds or so. But thanks for the engagement, everyone. Felt like this was a great demo. A lot of great questions coming through. Yeah, excited about what's on the roadmap. I think it addresses a lot of what's been mentioned in the chat so far. Any last comments here from you, Ondrej and Pat?
The only other recommendation I'd say is we just launched a podcast called Founder Therapy. Would definitely check that out. And I write a bunch of content on Substack as well. So if you're interested in anything about the founder journey, I think those are two good channels to go look into.
Love it. Cool. All right, we can go ahead and call it then. If you have any questions to our wider team, you can contact support@clarify.ai. If you want to connect with myself, Ondrej, or Pat on LinkedIn, we're pretty easy to find. And yeah, like Pat mentioned, we have a Substack, Founder Therapy, and a podcast, First Pitch, so you can follow along there. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.